Hello, fellow half-humans. Welcome to the Half-Human YouTube channel. This is actually the second video because the first was the live stream, but this is our first proper video, and this is a series of videos I'm going to do on this channel where I talk about all things half-human in terms of lore. Now, the first book is out, and the series is only going to get bigger and more epic as we go. And as you probably know, because I've spoken about it so many times, this is a unique publishing project where a school and its students have helped write and traditionally published a book. Shout out to Spaceboy Books, who's a publisher of excellent sci-fi and our publisher. Now, as a creative writing project, this has sparked all kinds of creativity in our students, and it's not just the writing itself. This has led to different creativity, like some 3D modelling, creating some art and creating some games. Now, see, not all students like to help with the writing of the book, like the normal fiction stuff, but they do like to think about lore for our universe. And lore is like not legal stuff. It's Lore, and that's the kind of like background information about what do these animals look like that populate this planet? How do these powers actually work? How's the spaceship function? Like, where's its engines and like technical stuff like that? Okay, think of it like Wikipedia in Star Wars, for Star Wars, I should say. And in these videos, I'm going to talk to you about it, and there won't be any spoilers in it, I hope. But it will cover stuff about Planet Ontaria, not the main characters so much, but unless it's already been revealed in the book, of course. And it's mostly about this universe that we're building, so that you can learn more about Ontaria outside of the main plot. So what is today's topic? Well, today's topic is Planet Ontaria. Planet Ontaria is where most of the series so far takes place, and it's home to the Ontarian race. Now, let's get into the lore about this planet. Ontaria was formed back when a protoplanet, which kind of had an unstable orbit, like it was kind of like a drunk planet, and was meandering around alongside Earth around the sun. And finally, they hit Earth around about 4.5 billion years ago. This impact shatters Earth into two protoplanets, and they both sort of coalesced into two very large chunks, plus some large-scale pieces that eventually became the moons of both planets. Intelligent scientists, and they're the Ontarians who are super smart, more on them in another video, determined that Earth was the original planet, and like it was much larger, and due to the age, we know this, due to the age of Earth rocks, which sort of migrated to planet Ontaria after the collision. And as the two new planets formed, one that would become Planet Ontaria started to, so they're orbiting the sun, and the Planet Ontaria one is getting further and further and further with each orbit, because it's heavier. If it's heavier, then it's only slightly heavier, but it's enough to make its because in a way the planets are sort of falling constantly towards the sun. That's if you look at pictures of like space-time, that's kind of what it makes it look like. That's the one way to say it. And so Ontaria just moves away because it's actually technically orbiting faster, just enough to inch away, 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 and it moves away from Earth because mothers can be embarrassing at parties, throwing up animals like these, for example. Ontaria is, on a planetary scale, the same size as Earth, maybe a little bit bigger as well. That's where its heaviness comes in, but don't tell the planet that it's heavy; it won't take it the right way. And now that it's like over billions of years, it's managed to pull its distance away from Earth, and now it orbits the sun at the same distance, and on the opposite sides of the sun. However, intelligent scientists have predicted that the planet will fall closer to the sun over the next few billion years. So stick that in the calendar, Ontarians, and sort that out in, I don't know, a billion years. You can probably wait that long. Although Ontarians have made a note of this. Now, Ontario sort of cooked off and became, after the collision, and became a planet that we would recognise, vaguely a sphere, although Earth is actually a little bit squashed. So is Ontario. But it did all the other sort of things through some mountains and some water and some and rivers, and plant life starts to grow and everything else. but it showed signs of life around 3 billion years ago, a little bit later than Earth. This may be because the Earth took a number of hits around 3.8 billion years ago during a recognized bombardment of the solar system. And this bombardment may have introduced the necessary chemical components for biological life earlier than Ontaria, because all this stuff is hitting Earth first. Ontaria is behind the Earth in the orbit, so it doesn't take the hits. But this also introduces things to Earth that might lead to life, or increases the chances of life later on. Ontario is protected from the bombardment by like ducking behind the Earth, like like that guy, you know who I mean, the one who uses a human shield when playing Fortnite. Ontario seems to have been a safer planet in terms of letting life flourish, like rather than nuking it every so often with a space rock. There's very little mass extinctions recorded in Ontario's sort of geological history. However, the planet is considered by intelligence to be more dangerous than planet Earth. You see, mass extinctions usually lead to a greater diversity of life, as it removes entrenched species and allows for other species to get in on the niches caused by the mass destruction and unfortunately death. This leads to huge diversity because of the specialization that's needed in this new challenging environment. And this also leads to new species being able to compete more easily for those niches and sort of, so mass extinctions cause obviously a short term like mass like death and loss of biological sort of matter, I'll just say, doing something useful, but eventually leads to a wider range of diversity. But that diversity is less dangerous because new species can easily compete and get in and eliminate others and just basically take over. However, because Ontario has less mass extinctions, species kind of stuck around long after they would have on Earth. Ontario has what we would class as dinosaurs, even in this modern era where the book takes place, because it's actually a successful build. Certain species on Ontario thus came to dominate environments and actually became more and more capable and power. Even evolution on Ontario just locks in success and then builds upon it little by little, and whatever creatures are being favoured remain at the top of the leaderboard for quite a long time. Think about it like this. The shark has been around for about 400 million years through a variety of mass extinctions, yet it's still here. Yes, it's a diverse species, lots of different subspecies of what we call shark, because the general principles of their design have been proven effective. It's like a barbarian build on D&D, it's always going to be sticking around. So the shark dominates the sea in some capacity because it's so successful and it's been able, and it's locked in. And the same kind of happens on Ontario. Lots of different, like still thousands of different species, sometimes millions of species, but they're much more entrenched and they become so good at what they do, they're actually harder for a new species to kick off the leaderboard and then take over. So a new species evolves, they get smacked down quite quickly by the dominant one. So when the Ontarian race developed, and Ontarians, they're humanoid, they struggled to overcome species that have existed and perfectly adapted to their environment. But some intelligence would suggest that's the reason why Ontarians developed their gifts. Now, but this has led to Ontario still being quite wild. Like the Pura tribe admit, and they're the ones in the ocean, have not been able to explore the entirety of the planet, despite having the capacity to do so, because even though they've had exclusive access to like the seas and the oceans, because it's still so dangerous. So there's quite a few wild areas. Yes, the spaceship flies over the jungles of Ontario and the mountains of Ontario, but get on the ground there, and it's incredibly difficult, even for Ontarians, even with their gifts. Like, wildlife has become so entrenched and so dangerous, it's still keeping areas of Ontario wild, whereas humanity kind of knows what's going on everywhere. There may be places where a human has never stood before, but that's like a few square kilometers in Canada and Siberia, and maybe the Sahara Desert. But it's not the same thing when an Ontarian tries to go there and a creature they've never seen before comes at them, or the environment there's something wrong with the environment itself due to the nature of the planet. On one interesting note, it's a piece of lore that's got added. Ontario was at one point a colony for some sort of space-borne alien species. They arrived on Ontario millions of years ago, set up a colony, and then left. That seems to be the consensus. And we know this because they haven't left around any monuments, anything long term. It's because Ontarians found a rubbish tip. And like we know it's a rubbish tip. It's not because it's got Beanie Babies or Pokemon cards or the equivalents, I should say. It's just that like plastics and certain metals and other things are clearly breaking down, and they were found. And so you can get, well, if this is all junk, this is all the junk from the colony before they decided just to leave, and it's breaking down in such a way that you can determine what it was beforehand. So it's not an ancient ruins in the terms of, say, the pyramids show you that the ancient Egyptians used to live. It's just all their rubbish that they left behind, and how it's broken down, you can determine where it came from. In some sense, like if humanity was to disappear and an alien species came to planet Earth and looked around, they would actually find the remains of all like our CDs and like all our cars and it all like everything that would take ages to degrade, and like in a way all our buildings would disappear over time. They'll be eroded down by wind, they'll or just covered by floods and whatnot. But where all our rubbish is, that's a huge mass of just stuff that clearly shows someone built something, but it won't be identifiable. It will just render down, and that's what Ontarians for. And so Ontario was an alien colony at some point. If we decide to add that in the law, maybe we'll come back to that one day. Who knows? We don't know who those aliens were, not yet anyway. Now you're probably wondering, how come no one on Earth knows about planet Ontario within our universe, obviously? Well, the Ontarians developed space travel 2 centuries ago and managed to get way out into space faster than humans. It kind of helps to have a whole tribe supremely addicted to knowledge and the study and exploration of space. And intelligent scientists do things better than our own, although not as fast, but that will be a piece of lore for later. Intelligent scientists have managed to effectively like troll and gaslight human satellites and equipment to hide Ontario, which is probably causing some problems with Earth science within our universe, like getting them to ignore gravitational anomalies in the solar system. But to sort of say, to sort of apologize, intelligent scientists do occasionally nudge a human spacecraft the right way to compensate for humans not knowing about a whole planet existing on the same orbital plane. They kind of felt it was unfair just to let us struggle. Now, that's the end of that law, but a quick creative writing note in case you're thinking of writing your own book. And that's what this project is about. It's a creative writing project for the students at the school to teach them creative writing through the method of writing a full-on book. Now, Half Human is kind of a sci-fi fantasy where we're clearly introducing scientific elements that are the foundation of the storytelling, but we're also adding some kind of unexplained powers and abilities that are not some aspect of them is not scientifically based. However, we do include actual science in our story. I'm telling you this because if you're going to write sci-fi, you should always base it on good science. Now, obviously, you can get out there a little bit with it. You can even imagine some scientists, because sci-fi is all about the impact the science would have on the world or individuals. In our case, it's the idea of a whole species of aliens having basically superpowers, but they're naturally based. We try to have a biological explanation for how they work, and so that's the good sci-fi. That's the good science informing what we think is good sci-fi. And this obviously is about how it specifically affects Ryan, Barnes, and humanity. And the idea of 2 planets sharing the same orbit, which I just went through, is possible. It's been theorized. It's probably very unlikely, but okay, it may be unlikely, but it happened here in this solar system. And yeah, and you can go look at that science yourself, and it's very fascinating. So thank you very much for watching this very first lore video from the Half Human universe. Stay tuned for lots more lore, and obviously go pick up the book. It's available in all good online bookstores, and maybe a local bookstore. We hope so. Thanks very much for watching. See you in the next law video. Bye bye.